Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have an almost supernatural control over their environment without even saying a word? They don't scream for attention, nor do they beg for approval. They just retreat, and suddenly, everything around them is transformed. The energy of the room shifts, the dynamics reverse. The others begin to question, to chase, to feel an inexplicable urgency. Now, imagine for just a moment if that person were you. If you learned to master this silent, magnetic force. What would happen if you stopped reacting instantly to every stimulus? If, faced with a provocation, you chose silence instead of an automatic reply? A strategic retreat instead of an emotional explosion? Do you think your world, your relationships, would remain the same? Here lies a power that few fully understand. When you stop being constantly available on an emotional, physical, and psychological level, the world around you enters a beneficial crisis. People are used to controlling you through your reactions. But before continuing, like the video, share it with those who might appreciate it, and write us in the comments from which city you follow our channel. Your support allows us to continue creating content like this, helping us reach more and more people looking for a profound transformation. Your predictability is their greatest tool of control. Your impulses, your need to explain and justify yourself, are the strings with which they move you. But the day you decide, with awareness, to withdraw from this game, everything changes radically and definitively. Those who thought they knew you, that they understood you, realize a disconcerting and destabilizing truth. They realize, with a mixture of frustration and bewilderment, that they know absolutely nothing about your true and profound essence. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung once said a revealing phrase: "Everything that irritates us in others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Think carefully about the meaning of these words in the context of your life. When you become deliberately inaccessible, who really despairs? Who feels irritated by your new and imperturbable calm? Who desperately tries to provoke you, just to wring from you an emotion, a reaction that can confirm the old and comfortable pattern? This behavior reveals much more about their insecurity than it does about you, and above all, it reveals to you in an almost brutal way how much you have been, up until now, manipulated and drained without even realizing it. You have continued to give of yourself to please. You have maintained a false peace, just so as not to lose people who, deep down, were never really with you, but only with the function you performed. And with every yes that you felt forced, with every answer given out of duty, you have given away a precious piece of your vital energy. At the end of the day, after giving yourself to everyone, what is left of you? Often only tiredness, frustration, a sense of inner emptiness that you can't explain, a bitterness that you don't know where it comes from. The reason is that you are too available to those who don't deserve your silence. This video is not an invitation to turn your back on the world with cynicism. On the contrary, it is an invitation to choose yourself, first of all. To begin that sacred process that Jung called individuation, the path to becoming a complete, authentic, and whole human being. And this inner journey begins the moment you understand a fundamental principle. Your conscious silence can be stronger than 1,000 arguments. This retreat, when it does not arise from fear but from a deep centering, is not an act of weakness, but the highest manifestation of personal power. So now I ask you, looking you straight in the eye, how long will you continue to be controlled by the emotions of others? How long will you react like a puppet every time someone, deliberately or not, picks at one of your old wounds? Maybe it's finally time to cut those invisible strings. It's time to retreat not from the world, but from the pointless drama that surrounds you. It's time to become a mystery to those who took you for granted. Because when you stop being available, everything changes. You were taught from childhood to always be present, to respond quickly, to please for love and approval. You were told to say yes, even when every fiber of your being screamed a categorical no, a no that you stifled. We have been programmed to believe that our value lies there, in our unlimited and unconditional availability to others. But here is a truth that perhaps no one has ever told you with this clarity. This excessive availability is not a virtue. It is a prison, an invisible prison whose walls are built on the fear of rejection. And as long as you continue to think that you must always be reachable, emotionally or otherwise, you will be manipulated, drained, and then forgotten as soon as you are no longer functional to their purposes. Do you know why? Because being always available makes you predictable. And everything that is predictable, in the eyes of those who want to use others, becomes a tool. People start using you as an emotional emergency button, to be pressed every time they need something. They seek you out when they want attention, relief, validation. And then, just as easily, they put you on a shelf until the next crisis. You, in the meantime, remain trapped in the illusion that being there for everyone will ensure that, in your need, someone will finally be there for you. But that is not the case. Carl Jung spoke at length about the persona. This is the social mask we wear to be accepted, loved, recognized. And it is precisely this mask, your desire to be the good and available person, that makes you excessively and dangerously accessible. You say, "I'm fine," even when you're suffocating inside. You reply to messages instantly, even when you're exhausted. You go out of your way to explain and justify things, as if you owe the world a constant debt that doesn't exist. The truth is that the more you place yourself at the center of other people's stage, the more you disappear from your own. Being constantly available is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It is a disguised way of begging for approval and avoiding rejection, an attempt to control the image that others have of you. But this control comes at an exorbitant price. Your inner peace, your vital energy is distributed as if it were infinite, when in reality, it is your most precious and limited resource. People who expect you to be always available, in truth, do not desire you. They want what you can offer them: validation, companionship, distraction, comfort. They are attracted to your function, not your essence. But when you change, when you finally set a healthy boundary, when you refuse to react, those same people get irritated. They accuse you, they say you have become strange, selfish. It is not because you have changed for the worse, but because you have stopped being functional to their needs. You have stopped being a source of energy. And here is the crucial point. The more available you are, the less value is attributed to you. What is always abundant becomes worthless, almost an emotional rag. No one truly respects what they have not somehow had to earn. No one appreciates what is taken for granted. Rarity creates value. So, now stop for a moment and think honestly. Who really deserves your time? Who has earned your attention? Or better yet, who deserves your strategic and powerful absence? Before we respond, we need to understand why we react so strongly. What lies behind this almost automatic need to respond and justify ourselves? The answer, according to Jung, lies in the concept of psychic energy. And that's what we're going to talk about now because it's fundamental. Your energy is all you have. And if you don't learn to protect it, you can be sure that someone, sooner or later, will use it against you. Carl Jung did not see the psyche as a machine that reacts to stimuli. For him, our mind is a complex and autonomous energy system. Every thought, every emotion, every action you perform consumes a part of this limited and precious energy. The fundamental question is, are you choosing where to direct your energy, or are you letting the outside world decide for you? Every time you react impulsively, you are wasting your psychic energy. When you defend yourself from criticism that didn't deserve attention, you are opening a hole. When you respond to a provocation just to prove yourself right, you are giving your strength away to someone who doesn't deserve it at all. When you engage in pointless discussions or try to please someone who doesn't respect you, you are wasting your inner strength in activities that drain you. And Jung was very clear about this. What you resist persists. The more you react, the more you become energetically tied to that situation or person. People who live in a state of constant emotional exhaustion are not weak. They are simply people who direct their energy in the wrong direction. And what happens to those who live constantly exhausted? They become vulnerable. And when you are in this state of vulnerability, you become easy prey. Manipulative people, opportunists, and narcissists have a radar for this. They sense your weakened energy and take advantage of it. They notice that you don't know how to guard your energy field, that you react to everything. They notice that you are always trying to save the world, and they take advantage of it without scruples. Jung argued that a healthy psyche is one that knows how to keep energy within its system, conserving it with care. This, in practice, means knowing how to say no without feeling guilty. It means knowing how to remain silent in the face of an attack without feeling like a coward. It means learning to observe carefully before acting. True power lies not in reaction, but in conscious choice. And that's only possible when you know yourself well enough to recognize your automatic impulses and choose not to follow them. How many times have you lost sleep over an unresolved argument? How many hours have you spent ruminating on what you should have said? This is energy being drained from your present with no return. You are keeping ghosts alive and fueling toxic dynamics that exist only because you insist on responding and reacting. Psychic energy, if well guarded, creates a force field, a presence. You walk into a room and command respect without saying a word. But if you handle it badly, you become invisible, reactive, fragile. So, start observing your emotional triggers today. What makes you react automatically? What makes you lose your center? These are the exact points where your energy leaks out. This is where you have to work, not to become cold, but to become selective, to finally become the ruler of your inner kingdom. And this is where the depth of Jung's thought is revealed. When you conserve your energy, you break the projections that others have about you. And this takes us into fascinating and dark territory, that of silent manipulation and invisible power games. In the next part, we will explore how opportunists feed off your energy. You think you have control over your choices and reactions, but the truth is that most of our emotional responses are programmed. They are learned automatisms, and those who understand this mechanism can manipulate you with disconcerting ease without you realizing it. Opportunistic people don't need to raise their voice or threaten. They simply push the emotional buttons you've left uncovered. They know what words to say, what looks to use, what guilt to induce, and you react. You always react in the same, predictable way. Carl Jung called this mechanism projection. It is the process by which people unconsciously attribute to others traits, desires, or faults that they cannot see in themselves. But there is another side to the phenomenon that is crucial for you. While others project their needs onto you, being too available, become the perfect receptacle. You become a blank canvas on which anyone can paint their dramas. Think of that friend who contacts you only and exclusively when he is in crisis. Think of that partner who always needs you to save them. Think of that person who praises you, but only as long as you are useful to them. None of this is coincidental, and it has nothing to do with you. It is about the role that you, more or less consciously, have accepted to play. And why do you accept it? Because you are afraid of being disappointed, of not being loved, afraid more than anything else, of being abandoned. The most effective manipulation happens in the sneaky silence of guilt. When you feel you owe something to the other, you are already trapped. When you believe you have to be available, that you have to help, even when it destroys you. And here is the central point of the manipulative mechanism. The manipulator does not need to actively control you. He just needs you to continue to react in exactly the same way. But when you stop reacting, the game stops abruptly. When you start saying no, responding with silence, the projections that have been thrown at you begin to crumble. The mask that has been put on your face falls to pieces. And that leaves people confused because they don't know who you are anymore. And worse for them, they are now forced to look at themselves. They are forced to confront the void they were trying to fill by using you. Your new unavailability becomes a mirror they can't stand. The silence you offer reveals the deafening noise they have inside. And then come the attacks, the criticisms, the emotional drama. Not because you have made a mistake, but because you have stopped being a comfortable mirror. Jung said, "By making darkness conscious, we reach enlightenment." When you withdraw, when you stop feeding the reactive cycle, the shadow of others, their inner darkness begins to emerge. And this is unbearable for those who have always used you as an escape. But are you ready to face this discomfort? Are you prepared to be misunderstood, rejected, or even attacked just to protect yourself? Are you prepared to endure the silence that follows the breaking of these toxic bonds? Because it is precisely in that silence that a new, authentic kind of power is born. And it is this power that we will talk about now. You will understand why silence can be the most devastating and at the same time most constructive weapon of the human psyche, and how it completely changes the power dynamics between you and the world. The modern world is noisy, chaotic, hyper-connected. Everyone wants to be heard, to be the first to respond, to win useless debates. But there is a power that few know, the power of silence. Not the silence of passivity, but strategic, conscious silence. That kind of silence that is not absence, but amplified presence. Jung saw silence not as a void, but as fertile ground for transformation. When you stop reacting, you begin to observe. And by observing, you see patterns that previously, in the noise, went unnoticed. Silence gives you clarity, and clarity is dangerous for those who live to control you. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond? When you don't explain yourself? When you simply disappear from the conversation? It's not because they genuinely miss you. It's because your silence takes away their control of the narrative. As long as you speak, as long as you defend yourself, you are still in their game. But when you are silent, you change the rules of the game in your favor, and that unbalances anyone who thrives on your reaction. True silence is not the absence of voice, it is the mastery of one's energy. It is the refusal to be dragged down by the emotional storms of others. It is the choice not to engage in battles that are not worth your peace. Jung said that individuation requires this distancing, because only in silence can you finally hear your inner voice. But this power comes at a price, and you have to be willing to pay it. Strategic silence will alienate you from people who only valued you for your role. It will make you incomprehensible to those who only saw you through their projections. It will make you seem cold, distant, perhaps even arrogant. But this is just the reaction of someone who never wanted your depth, but only your usefulness. The more you mature, the more selective you become with your words and your interactions, because you understand that every conversation is an energetic investment, and not everyone deserves to have access to your inner world. Sometimes, silence is not a retreat. It is an act of sovereignty. It is the language of those who no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Silence is uncomfortable for others because it forces them to confront their own thoughts, their own noise, their own emptiness. And their discomfort reveals more than any argument ever could. You don't need to explain your absence. Your absence explains itself. And those who feel threatened by it reveal their dependence. But the most powerful silence is the one that rebuilds you from the inside out. It is the silence that connects you to something beyond external approval. It is in this inner space that you begin to reclaim your life energy, because it is not enough to eliminate external noise. You must relearn how to use your energy consciously. It is time to be selective with your soul. It is no use understanding all this only on an intellectual level. If then, in practice, you continue to say yes when you would like to say no, if you continue to respond to messages that annoy you, and if you continue to maintain relationships that exist only by inertia. Awareness without action is just another form of self-deception. Real transformation begins when you decide to become selective, and that requires emotional discipline, constant training. Conscious unavailability does not mean being cold or indifferent. It means no longer being accessible to anyone at any time. It means taking back control of your energy, your time, your peace. And that starts with small, yet powerful, daily actions. Don't respond immediately. Breathe before you react. Walking away from a discussion before you get dragged into chaos. Turning off your phone without feeling guilty. Saying, "Not today." Saying, "I'm not interested." But here's the most important part. You don't have to justify your absence. You don't have to explain your silence. You don't owe anyone anything but yourself. And that, for many people, is an unforgivable act. Because when you refuse to explain, You take away the other person's power to keep you within their emotional narrative. That narrative in which you are always available, understanding, and accessible. Jung understood that every process of individuation passes through isolation. Not a depressive isolation, but a sacred isolation, an interior retreat in which to relearn to listen to one's own voice without the interference of the world, where to rebuild one's identity from one's own center. Want a thermometer for your evolution? Watch who distances themselves from you when you become more reserved. Watch who tries to provoke you when you stop reacting. Watch who accuses you of having changed when you finally start to protect yourself. These are positive signs. I am proof that you have begun to break free from your chains. Being unavailable is uncomfortable at first. You will feel guilty. You will think you are selfish. But it is part of the process of deconstruction. You have spent your life being conditioned to put yourself second. Conscious unavailability is the foundation of self-determination. When you say no to the world, you are saying yes to yourself. When you withdraw from a toxic environment, you reaffirm that your peace is more valuable. And when you stop explaining yourself, you start being respected. But not everyone is ready for this kind of presence. Your emotional absence will expose wounds that they do not want to face. And that is when the breakup comes, and with it, the pain, the loneliness, the feeling of losing something, when in reality, you are freeing yourself. But what happens next? What is born from silence? In the last part, we will talk about this rebirth that happens only when you have the courage to be misunderstood, to be alone, and to become complete by yourself. It is the path to true freedom. When you stop being available to everyone, something profound happens. First comes silence, an uncomfortable silence that seems to scream. You wonder if you did the right thing, if you were too harsh. But gradually, this silence transforms. It begins to purify. And then comes loneliness, but not the loneliness of absence. It is the loneliness of total presence, yours. The loneliness of the strong, of those who no longer betray themselves to keep others close. And in that space, where there was confusion, clarity enters. Where there was anxiety, peace enters. Where there was need, strength enters. The strength to be whole within oneself. Jung said individuation requires distancing oneself from the collective, disidentifying from the mask, walking alone for a while. That's what you do when you become unreachable. You are not running away from the world. You are returning to yourself. This is where you stop being a reactor and become a creator. You stop being shaped by circumstances and start shaping your reality. People who are uncomfortable with your absence reveal that they never wanted you. They wanted the role you played. And now that you don't fit in anymore, they don't know what to do. And that's liberating. You'll lose people, but you'll find yourself. You'll move away from places, but you'll reconnect with your essence. You'll be misunderstood, but eventually you'll start to be respected. Because when you are no longer available for anything, you become precious, rare. This is a rebirth, a new beginning of a life where you are no longer available for emotional crumbs, for mind games, for voids disguised as affection. Now you accept only what resonates with your peace, your truth, your wholeness. And if you've come this far, it's because a part of you is already ready. A part of you has understood that being loved means nothing if you have to abandon yourself to do so. And that true self-love begins when you choose yourself, even if it costs you to be alone for a while.